Hey everybody, and welcome to JG Wam's 2023 year in review. I think this is going to be a three-parter, and we're going to start off with comics. I think that makes the most sense, and that'll make sense at the end. So yeah, I just, every year I keep track of all the media I consume: movies, TV, comics, video games, tabletop games, books I've read, places I've traveled, and meals I've made. I guess not all of those are media, but those are the things I track throughout the year, just for like personal growth, observation. I'm a nerd, and keeping spreadsheets is fun. I don't know. But so this year I had a goal of, let's see, reading 52 comics, and I ended up reading 156. And what that means is like that is about a trade's worth, or a volume of manga, depending on what it is. I've read a little bit of both, as we'll see. But starting in January, specifically the 9th, I read through basically the entirety of the Shang-Chi series by... Oh, crap, I didn't look up his name. Luen Yang. Sorry, I forgot your name, man. And you did an excellent job on Superman Smashes the Klan a couple years ago as well. It's the most recent Shang-Chi run. Tiffany from ComicPOP had been talking it up on their podcast, so I wanted to read through it. And I don't get it. It's fine. It's nothing special. I wouldn't recommend it. I would not recommend it. If you're looking to read some Shang-Chi and you want some like kung fu superhero action, you could do worse. It was fine. I don't know. Shang-Chi just finds out, he like finds a family with some other people. Not like blood related, if I remember right. Or maybe it was blood related. I don't really remember. This was literally a year ago I read this now. But he meets up with a group of people, and they're all kind of not trusting one another, but they kind of trust one another, and they're all working against the ultimate evil, and all kind of culminated in a one-shot called Master of the Ten Rings, which, if I remember correctly, felt a little rushed, but was ultimately satisfying. And I think Shang-Chi is showing up in some other stuff. So, good for him. A month later, in February 8th... Yeah, so this was like late night February 8th into early morning February 9th. I read through the first 61 issues of Saga. Yeah, it was great. I don't really want to get too into the details, but if you've read Saga, then you know why it's great. And if you haven't read Saga, any time is a good time to get into it. I waited just because I didn't want to get stuck on like the week-to-week wait for every issue, and then there's massive breaks with this one too, so that doesn't help. But yeah, it's well worth reading. It's about a family struggling to survive in a strange sci-fi universe that mirrors our own in a lot of ways. I have read a couple catch-up issues since then, because they recently got off a large break to start making it again. And I'm not going to lie, I don't really like the new direction they've gone in. I think 3 issues behind. I read Saga 62 at the end of February, it looks like. And I don't think I've read 3, 4, or 65, so... Yeah, I don't know. It's not that I dislike where they're going. And Saga's the type of thing where they will just take a hard right and you're like, whoa, what's going on? It takes a little bit to find your feet and then it gets good again. Kind of hoping that's what happens here, but yeah, I don't know. It's a really good story overall, and I highly recommend reading it. That same day, I read through, if you can call it reading, I looked through Step by Bloody Step. I think that's Cy Spurrier who made that one. Pretty sure... I can't remember the guy who made Saga, but he's the guy behind like Pride of Baghdad, which for some reason I'll never ever forget that he made Pride of Baghdad, even though I've never read it. Anyway, Step by Bloody Step is a silent comic about like a big knight guy, kind of not guy, like entity or something, like haunted armor, I think, or like a machine kind of dealio. And it kind of tells a story about... I don't really know. I think it's like restarting the world or whatever. It's silent, so it's hard to tell. But he like goes, finds a little girl, brings her on a big journey. There's a big war. They get through that, and then it's one of those stories where it kind of like cycles through. And I don't really want to give away the ending, but it cycles through, and it's one of those things where, oh, we're here again, and then it was interesting. It's very short. You don't actually read. It's got beautiful art. I ended up saving a couple of the double splash pages because they made really good wallpapers. Beautiful book. Cute. Well, it's kind of a sad story, but it's a good story. I'd recommend it. I'll end up talking about this a little bit later because I didn't finish this story arc, but on February 16th, I got a little more caught up on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was during the Armageddon game storyline. And I ended up finishing that much later in the year, so I'll talk about it more then. I'll just hint that ever since issue 100, TMNT has kind of fallen back a little bit for me. I was really into it. So some of the best stuff was between like 50 and 100, I think. Some of that Rocksteady and Bebop spinoffs were fucking amazing. But, and it sucks too. There was a creator who's been working on the book a long time, started as an artist, Sophie Campbell. They were incredible. Their name is different early on in the book, but it's the same person. I don't want to say more than that because, I don't know, I'm a cis person, so I don't know. But anyway, Sophie Campbell, great artist. And then she started doing some of the writing, and she was helping, and it was really, really good. And then she took fully over at 100, and it kind of, I don't know. It made me feel bad because I love her work, but that made me not love her work quite so much. And it's not bad. It just turned into like really fucking boring slice of life stuff, which I just don't have. I do not care about that whatsoever. That is just not a genre. If I want slice of life stuff, I'll stop reading and go enjoy my life. I'll go get a slice of life. I don't know. Like I'll get more into that later. Zoe Campbell, your artwork's fantastic, and I like a lot of the earlier stories you worked on. And I hope you go back to consulting or find a place where you're writing stuff that I selfishly like more. I don't know. You're probably happy with what you're writing, so who gives a shit what I have to say about it, huh? Let's see. The next day, February 17th, I ended up reading the first 4 issues of the Black Monday Murders. I don't think I went back and finished it, but it was a really interesting, like, what are they called? Like CEOs, the garbage of the earth, how they use, like, dark magic to actually, like, control things, and just getting into, like, high stakes, like, gambling with life and magic and lots of money, which of course leads to a lot of people who aren't involved directly's livelihoods, because if these companies survive or fail, it'll end up having a like a landslide effect and affect everybody down below. It was really good. I need to get back to it. I don't think the series is finished. I don't know if it'll ever actually get finished, which is a bummer. It's got really, really crazy good art. I remember there was a scene where there was a CEO or something locked up by the police, and it's just like a really intense scene where he like cuts himself and uses some of the blood to like cast some spells in front of the detectives or whatever, and they're like, holy fucking shit, we are in over our head. I don't remember exactly what happened, but yeah, that scene stood out to me, and I still remember just like how they drew that dude's face like cockily smiling because he's like, yeah, y'all fucked up. Really good. February 23rd, I read a very genuinely disturbing manga, 1972's I Saw It, which is a recounting of, I think, Hiroshima, might have been Nagasaki, I don't remember, one of those two. And this was written from a person who was on the ground floor when that bomb dropped, and they survived, and the shit they saw, and just, wow. We really shouldn't be messing around with nuclear arms. It's fucked up. There's no war that justifies the type of like shit that kid had to see and grew up with, and fuck war. I saw it's really good, really powerful. If you're ever doubting like, oh, nuclear bomb, oh, it's funny, Fallout's a fun thing. Fallout is fun, I'm not, just whatever, but nuclear bombs aren't a fucking joke. Like, just, I don't know, man. I think it's easy. It's similar to the Holocaust. It's easy to just be like, yeah, it's a thing that happened, but like, that's a thing that happened. And it's horrible. On a much lighter note, March 6th, I ended up reading Sergeant Rock versus the Army of Dead. This is a comic book written by Bruce Campbell. I just kind of wanted to give it a shot because of that. And I gotta say, it's not bad. I don't think Bruce Campbell is like a super great writer or anything. He didn't do anything extra clever. But it was fun. It was just a fun little romp through, Sergeant Rock in World War II, famous DC character. Him and his, it's not Howling Commandos, who's he got? He's got like Haunted Tank and stuff, but he has a name for his men. I don't remember what it is. Marvel won out the World War II spot in my brain, I guess. Although I like Sergeant Rock way more than I like, well, no, I guess Nick Fury kind of transcends World War II. I'm getting lost in the sauce. Sergeant Rock vs. the Army Dead, really good, standard comic book. Highly recommend it if you just want like a silly Sergeant Rock and some World War II guys being like, what the hell are zombies? Who cares? Blow them away. And like, that's it. It's very fun. It's enjoyable. And it had like a couple darker moments in it. April 1st, and this is no joke, I read Marvel's Secret Reverse. What the fuck is Marvel Secret Reverse? Marvel Secret Reverse is bizarre. It might be made by the guy who made Yu-Gi-Oh! It's about, like, what if Yu-Gi-Oh! Marvel Universe? So there's a guy who's making, like, crazy cards, and he, like, can use them to power himself up, and he's playing card games, and he's trying to sell the tech to people, but he uses the tech on himself to become, like, a god, and then Iron Man has to fight him, and it's literally just the Marvel Universe versus, like, a crazy Yu-Gi-Oh! Villain who uses cards to power up. I don't recommend it. I read it on a lark, because why the fuck does that exist? Looks like April 13th was a catch-up day. I read another issue of Saga, a couple more issues of TMNT, and then April 13th. So Sal from ComicPOP, the other half, well, I mean, 1/4, the main fourth, the leading force between ComicPOP, Sal, he was the one who said this was good, and so I checked it out. It's a Tom King book, excellent. Tom King's really, really good at shorts. So you get him to do a 4 to 12 issue miniseries, almost always is going to be knocking him out of the park. And I don't know what to tell you, man. Gotham City Year 1, if you don't know what noir is, it's fantastic. It's really, really good. It is like quintessential noir, and it might even get you into the genre. If you've seen noir movies, this is not very good. This is just like a by-the-numbers noir tale. Like, it's fantastic. Like, it's good, but it just is that again. Like, it's just... A dame walks in, I know she's trouble, but, you know, I can't help but help her, and oh, now I'm in too deep, and oh my gosh, she was actually in on it, and oh, this is actually just rich people fucking around, and here I go again, in the middle of it. Just fucking any noir story. So, you know, it's very good. Tom King's a good writer. The art is fucking beautiful. I think it's Phil Hester, dude's chef's kiss. Beautiful art. Holy shit. Get it for the art alone. And it's not at all bad, but it was just hyped up to me. And I think it was just, Sal, you haven't seen a lot of noir movies, have you? It's okay. They're particular, and they're all kind of samey, but this is just a celebration of a genre it doesn't seem like you give too much of a shit about, I think. If I'm wrong, I apologize. And it's not that this is bad, it just is. I don't know. I wouldn't not recommend it. It wouldn't be like a fervent recommend, though. At the end of April 26th, I read 3 more issues of TMNT. Still not quite done with Armageddon games, so we'll hold off. And then it starts. Took a long break from reading comics. I didn't read anything. From April 26th to September 11th. What a day. I started it. You see, back in, I think it was 2000, 2001, I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not going to go over there and grab it, but Shonen Jump started getting released in America. And I bought every issue for the first 3 years, I want to say. I think I have the first 36 issues. And so that is my experience with One Piece. Those first 36 or so chapters. Read that, liked it, not enough to get into the volumes, and then I never ever checked out the anime. And over the years, it's just one of those series where I'm like, you know, I want to check it out. Should check it out. Should read it. Now it's at over 100 fucking volumes. So naturally, I'm like, well, now that it's not yet done and over 100 volumes, maybe I should get caught up. So, yeah, September 11th through September 29th, I read 24 volumes of One Piece. I'll talk about it later. October 11th, I read Wanted, another piece by Oda. I don't know how to... Ichiro? I think it's Ichiro Oda, right? The guy who made One Piece. And it's just a collection of all of his... Well, I don't know if it's all of, but it's most of his earlier manga. That was his. It's kind of like Akira Toriyama's Manga Theater, if you ever read that. Both of these are... There's one story about a dragon slayer. That guy shows up. If you have read One Piece, there's a character in the, Thriller Bark arc. He's from one of his older ones. He did like a cowboy manga. There's one, he literally was like, I just wanted to draw a giant building collapsing, so I wrote this story. I just wanted to show a giant dragon getting cut in half, so I made this story. So lots of wholesome reasons to make a comic. But it's fine, you know. If you're like, if you love One Piece more than fucking anything, more than life itself, maybe get it. I don't know. It's whatever. And then from October 11th, between October 11th and 31st, I read up to volume 40 of One Piece. Getting there. But back also on October 11th, I read the first 6 issues of Immortal Iron Fist, which I finished, I think, that next month, so I'll wait till I get to the end of that to talk about that too. Weird, right? I randomly chose 2 martial arts Marvel characters to read this year. Very strange. I don't know. I'm not huge into martial arts either, but I don't know. Okay, so in the month of November, from the 1st to the 30th, I got up to volume 84 of One Piece. So still not ready to talk about it. Looks like that'll be one of the last things we talk about. In between, November 4th, I read more Immortal Iron Fist, the annual, up to issue 14th. November 5th, I read Wonder Woman Conan, a 6-issue miniseries, which is Wonder Woman and Conan. I don't see why the fuck this was made. It's nothing. It's not bad. It's just nothing. There's nothing. They don't explore anything in the Conan universe. They don't really explore anything in the Wonder Woman universe. I mean, Wonder Woman winds up with amnesia in the Conan universe, so it's just big Amazon and big man fighting evil. Don't pay money for it. It's fine. I don't know. There's so much good Wonder Woman and so much good Conan. I can't imagine why anyone would ever bother with this. I think Gail Simone wrote it too. I could be wrong, but if it was, what the hell? You're very talented. Why did this just felt like it was phoned in? I'm sorry. I don't know. November 14th, I read Lady Killer Volume 1 and 2, which are 5 issues each. This one was one that I'm pretty sure the YouTube channel Imperious Rex talked about one time, and that's what got me to read it. And they talked about how good the art is, and the art is stellar. Holy shit, the art is so good in Lady Killer. If nothing else, read Lady Killer 1 and 2 for the art. I think it was one lady who made the whole thing, story and art, and golly, your art is damn good. The story is, I don't know, it's fine. It's like, it's not even that common, but it just feels like overdone to me for some reason. That could be a me thing. That could be a problem with me. But she's just like a 1950s mom, and she is an assassin. And then eventually, she got to keep the two lives separate. So it's like, honey, where were you all day? Haha, your dinner wasn't ready. Oh dear, I got ready just in time. And then just more and more questioning. Eventually she meets up with another old killer who she used to work with or something, or is old friends with or some crap. And he's like, oh, I'll tell your family, like, you're in this, like, killing life is more important than the real life. And she ends up killing him, and then just, I don't know. It's fine. There might one day be a Lady Killer Volume 3, and I might read it. Maybe even just for the art. It's fine. They're fine comics. They're not, I don't know. I wish for a little bit better, but I'm not upset or anything. November 14th, I read Immortal Iron Fist 15 through 27. I read the 2 spin-offs, Orson Rand and the Death Queen of California, Orson Rand and the Green Mist, and the Origin of Danny Rand, and the series that tied a bow on this whole Immortal Iron Fist saga, the Immortal Weapons. Okay, so the Immortal Iron Fist, it's alright. It's cool. It's kind of similar to Shang-Chi in that it's just like a dude, he meets up with other weapons, he realizes, or maybe you already knew, I don't really remember, but there's other weapons. He's one of the immortal weapons, and there's 5 other immortal weapons. And so he teams up with them, or they do like a tournament at one point, and then they're ending up teaming up to do various things to help keep the different realms in check. Because if you know anything about Iron Fist, his origin, his father was like, we got to go to this place in Tibet, so they're up in the mountains. His mom and dad died both in the mountains trying to find this legendary place, Kunlun, and then Danny Rand, all alone as a little boy, finds the entrance, and they raise him, and then it closes for 10 years, and every 10 years it opens. And there's other realms, and depending on how they do in that tournament I mentioned earlier, it'll alter the order in which they open. So like Kunlun won, so every 10 years they get to open. This one didn't, so every 100 years. This one didn't, so every whatever years, right? And that order can shift every time. That's why they like to want to win the tournament. And it's just fine, dude. I don't really care. I really hated, I think his name's Davos, who's like, it's like a purple Iron Fist essentially. He was written so fucking badly. He's like a villain at the start, and he's doing the typical like, oh, Iron Fist can't one-up me, I should have been the Iron Fist, not him. But then Iron Fist beats him, and then he's like a good guy for a few issues, and then he just turns full bad guy again. And it's just, I don't know. You can do that well, and it's comics, so you're constantly going to be flipping sides if you're that kind of character. It just didn't work very well for me. The Davos part specifically. Overall, it was fine. Just watching pretty well-drawn martial arts action with some interesting kind of stories. Like there's one where they get sucked into like this horrible hell place where they've put in all the demons, and it turns out like the very first Iron Fist is there. And there's a twist with that, so it might not have actually been the first Iron Fist now that I think about it, but I don't really remember because it didn't, I don't know. The story was it's okay. I would say it's worth reading. I don't know. I kind of want to read the rest of the Iron Fist stuff, except one of the early ones is like fucking 75 issues, but the rest of them are all like 3 issues, so I don't know. I like Iron Fist a lot. He's a cool guy. Just Like, happy to be there, happy to help out, fighting evil, and then he has, like, the whole I'm a rich Batman thing. I don't know. I don't care for that too much, but it's useful in a comic book setting, I guess. And then Immortal Weapons was just a short. Each issue is about one of the different Immortal Weapons, and it's essentially their backstory. There's, like, a fat dude, Iron Cobra, I think his name is. He might have been in the Hit Monkey show. Really recommend that show if you haven't seen it, actually. Very strange show, but worth it, I think. And his background's pretty great, because he actually has forgotten his background, so he was, like, asking a guy, hey, what was my... I've been alive so long, I don't even remember, how did I get here? And he's like, I'm a great hero, right? And it was actually like, you're kind of a piece of shit. And he's like, holy fuck. I remember that, and I am an awful person. So that issue was pretty good. The rest of them were fine. Likewise with the Orson Rand. I like Orson Rand. He's like the Iron Fist before Iron Fist, and he used guns, and he like cheated the system, so like he kept the Iron Fist power through like some malarkey bullshit. And then there's the 2 issues with him fighting the Death Queen in California and the Green Mist. Both of those are pretty good. They're not anything special, but they're not bad. November 24th, I read 2 TMNT spin-off crossover things, Versus Street Fighter and Cross Stranger Things. Versus Street Fighter, I don't know much about Street Fighter, but I have to assume the Street Fighter characters are not this stupid. Like, they are just written stupidly. This whole thing is written stupidly. If this had been Saturday Morning Adventures TMNT versus Saturday Morning Adventures Street Fighter, it would have been a great, fun, dumb comic. But it's not that. It's the TMNT versus Street Fighter. So for me, I think it was a little shitty. There's a couple really good lines with M. Bison, though, as per usual. It's M. Bison. He's, like, if you write him as, like, a cornball Saturday morning villain, you've already won. It was okay. If you like Street Fighter, you'd probably like it less than I did, so watch out for that. Raphael and Guile have like a fun little rivalry at least. And then TNT cross Stranger Things. I just don't. I just don't. This is another one that Sal from ComicPOP said was pretty good. Then he stopped reviewing it, and I think it's because he didn't actually really care for it that much, and I didn't either. It's not bad. Why did it happen? Very, very cool to get the OG Red Band Ninja Turtles from the 80s in New York. So it's like the Stranger Things kids meeting the OG Ninja Turtles. But like they just meet them and are so fine with it so fast, and then they just go home, and it's so... And the whole premise of it is that they're on a fucking field trip to New York, and their teacher loses them, and the teacher's just like, well, thank God we found you before we went back to Hawkins. What? What? I know it's the 80s, but like, fuck, dude. I don't know. Maybe things were that... I was born in 91, so maybe they were way more like, whatever, back then. I'll just save it for last. I'll save the One Piece chat for last, but needless to say, from December 2nd to the 13th, I got caught up with all the official volumes, and then got caught up on the chapters as they release, and I'm reading them as they get translated. So on December 29th, I read the last chapter. I read 1103. In 4 months, I read 1,103 fucking chapters of One Piece. It's worth it. We'll talk about it in a little bit, though. Okay. First of all, December 14th, I decided to go back to some Hellboy, because I hadn't been reading Hellboy in a while. So I read his 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2023 winter specials, which, if you don't know, those are just a collection of 3 to, I think, 5 short stories each. And it's Hellboy. It's your standard Hellboy plot. Hellboy shows up. Oh my god, here's the problem. Hellboy basically immediately deals with the problem with very little trouble. And then everyone's like, thank you. Or there's like an ironic twist to how he dealt with it, where it's like, oh, look at the like bad thing gets screwed over in some minor way. They're all fine. The newest one, 2023, had to do with the Yule Cat, which is just a giant black cat, and Hellboy fighting him, and that was cute. There was one that was gonna get turned into a spin-off of these like knights who go around just like taking care of ghosts, and it looked very morbid and kind of sad, and it was gonna get a spin-off series, but that got canceled because of COVID. Very upset about that. I think that was the 2019 one. I hope they eventually get back to that, because I don't know. I just like a small order of old knights going around being like, we must do what must be done, and just that's got like good morbid vibes to it that I could enjoy. Alongside those, I also just threw in Radio Spaceman 1 and 2, which is another small series by Mike Mignola. It has nothing to do with Hellboy, but it's a 2-issue thing I don't want to count on its own. And it was fine. It was just about a dude who controls, like, it's either a skeleton or a robot body, like, through Wi-Fi or some future version of Wi-Fi. So he's back on Earth or whatever, and there's this spaceship that goes out with like his robot body or whatever on it, and he goes and deals with problems, and then he ended up dealing with vampires in space, and then that vampire was like, oh, I'm gonna defeat you, but then the lady he saves is like, well, actually the thing that was fighting me was a problem, but a vampire, I could beat a vampire queen. So she turns into a bigger vampire, and it's very silly. It's very Mike Mignola. I recommend it. I don't know, if they do more Radio Spaceman, that'd be kind of cool. But right now, it just seems like a very short, just, like, quote unquote comic book, if you know what I mean, where it's just like, here's just a thing, somebody made it, it's cute, it doesn't need to exist, it does, and there's no problem with it existing. It's like, I can't imagine it ever coming up as like a recommendation though. Not that it's bad, it's just there's just nothing to it, and that's all there is. Maybe if there's more Radio Spaceman, like I was saying. December 15th, finally we catch up to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Armageddon game. I read the last issue, the annual, and then I read the first 5 issues of the next arc after the Armageddon game. In the TMNT, there's a dude named Rat King, and he's a guy who lives in the sewers, and he controls rats. In some versions of it, he is like a godlike creature who, through rats, can like control dark parts of the world, and there might have been other members of his family or whatever. In the IDW TMNT series, there's, I don't know, what, 6 or 7 or 8 of these dudes. I can't even remember what they're called because I care so little about them, but each of them is like an ancient aspect of the world, and they're all animal themed, and they're all like, one's a hunter, one is darkness and secrets, Rat King is like trickery and shit, one of them was the Shredder's old wife. I don't care for them at all. So they made a stupid event called Armageddon Game, trying to wrap everything together. And this is at a time when part of New York City had been hit with a bomb, and they'd that turned everyone in it into half animal mutants. I mean, it's fucking TMNT. If you say mutants, you know what it is. It's not fucking X-Men. Put up a wall, and they sequestered them off. So a part of New York is just this walled-off place called Mutant Town that nobody knows what's going on in. And they're all like, oh, mutants, we can't trust them. You know, the standard bullshit. And the end of the story is the wall's coming down, and the mutants get accepted, and New York's like, it's fine, whatever, who cares? But they get all the bad guys to work together. Baxter Stockman, who's mayor of New York, and he's the one keeping Mutant Town all fucked up. This devil lady who's in charge of like Nick's Industries or something, who's very whatever. I think she's been around for a while too, though. They got the Krangs involved. Or no, they didn't get the Krangs involved. My bad. They got the Utrams involved. Krang ends up dying, kind of. They kind of bring him back. Whatever, and they all fight, and then just in this stupid, like, there's an Alliance miniseries that goes along with it, where it's showing how, like, Casey Jones and April and this lizard lady Mona Lisa are getting, like, Karai and the foot soldiers and everybody else on their side, and then it just kind of, it all just kind of ends. Like, it's all just build up, and then, like, oh, we just took care of the problem, and then all that's left is Rat King. And then, secretly, in, like, near the end, Shredder and his wife, who got, like, resurrected or saved or some crap, bring them into a silent place, like a place beyond time and space, so they can train them how to use secret ninjutsu magic. And they do it, and then they win, and the Rat King is like, no, how could you beat me? And the rest of his family is like, it's time we got involved. And they literally just show up to die. But then, like, they're like, we don't know if they even can die. Maybe they're primordial forces. And the Rat King's like, no, you beat me, and things go back to normal, except Mutant Town's accepted. And it was like almost 15, 20 issues. I don't know, man. I don't know. Following that, a turtle from the future appears and is just like, I have to kill you, Donatello. And, like, it's one of the turtles, and, like, from the future, though, and he's like, it's a dark future, and we can't let Donatello do what he's going to do. And Donatello's like, what do I do? And he's like, well, you research this thing, and you go mad researching it. And then Donatello, of course, is like, what if I research that thing in order to avoid researching it? And then I can save the world from everybody. And I don't need anybody's help. It's got to be me. It can't be anybody else. So he goes off and sequesters himself to do his own stupid fucking secret research that clearly is going to lead to the end of the world or whatever. And then that other turtle fucks off, and he's going to be like another villain, I think, which is cool. He looks like it's like future Raphael, I think. And they end up going through time and creating, like, they take a Megalodon from the past and put him through, like, a time travel thing that, like, turns it inside out and becomes, like, a fucking time entity or something that's devouring the timeline or some shit. Like, that's the thing Donatello did, and they accidentally end up making it, like, super early or something. So I'm not sure exactly where it's going, but it's what I want. Like, this is the TMT shit I want. Over-the-top nonsense that doesn't necessarily make sense, but isn't, like, this is stupid. Like, this doesn't make sense and is stupid. Like, I want stuff that, like, doesn't make sense but is fun. Like this. I'm down for this. I hope it goes somewhere, because I really did enjoy most of the first 100 issues of TMNT, and since then, I have not. And that was up to 140. That's not very good. I don't know if you know, 100 issues, plus all the spin-offs and stuff, so it's closer to, like, 200. Very good. And then, like, 40 issues of just, this is very good. I don't know. Could just be me. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm hopeful again. And it's funny, because I don't fucking care about the TMNT at all. I'm not gonna lie, dude. Like, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is, like, I didn't really grow up, like I grew up with them because I was born after they had been popular, so I got lots of the toys and I had watched the show. But like I don't know. I don't really know why I'm so invested in the IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It honestly might be because of how well they portray Rocksteady and Bebop. They just make them like forces of nature with no brains, and that is incredible to me. Next up, I read Castle Full of Blackbirds. This is December 18th. Oh yeah, I was deciding to catch up on all the Hellboy spin-offs, because a couple years ago I read through Hellboy, BPRD, Abe Sapien, all the spin-offs up to that point. Lobster Johnson, Witchfinder, the hell's his name? Edward Gray, I think. All those. But then, of course, after a point, I was like, holy shit, I've read like 5,000 fucking comics. So I took a long break, year's break, and now I'm trying to catch back up. Castle Full of Blackbirds. Oh, this was the problem with this one. This was a spin-off from another series that I hadn't read yet, because I think it's in one of the cases from Hellboy and the BPRD, which is like a flashback series, and each of those is like, this is what happened, this is one of the adventures from 1955, this is one of the adventures from 1956, and one of them he meets this like kind of witchy Harry Potter kind of girl, and he, I guess, helps her find the school or something, and she ends up going to the school, and then that's what the Castle Full of Blackbirds is. It's that school and her adventure there, and it's one of those things where like old witches are using her to bring about some disaster or something, but then before it happens, she kind of catches on and is like, oh, this is a bad place for me, and she gets out, I think. I don't know. I'm not going to lie, man. I kind of checked out, just kind of breezed through it because I just didn't give a shit or really know anything that was going on. And I honestly don't think reading Hellboy in the BPRD issue that introduced her, even if it's a 5-issue story arc, I can't imagine me caring about the rest of the characters that much. And it was another one of those things where I wasn't exactly sure who the old witches were. I think by the end of it, they revealed one of them was Morgan Le Fay. And I think if I'd read this more closely to other Hellboy stuff, and if I could have been like, oh, that's this other witch, it would bring it all more together. I'm not going to lie, man. I'm kind of considering doing a Hellboy reread because I fucking loved Hellboy so much. And it's so in-depth and like so... Here's this comic published in 1992, and there's this character, and then this comic in 2004 brings them up for the second time. But it's very key that you know the connection there. God, Hellboy's so good. It's like a little puzzle box. That's the kind of stuff I want to make. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Next up, December 18th, same day, I also read Crimson Lotus, 1 through 5. It was okay. It's kind of Lobster Johnson-y in that it was just like an old crime story about Crimson Lotus is this like witch who's like a big deal later on, and this is kind of more of like an origin thing for her. Not really like an origin. It's not... it shows briefly her origin and then like some early adventures. It's less Batman Year One and more Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, if you understand what I'm saying there. It's like early Crimson Lotus as opposed to like origin of, if you... Yeah. You're not stupid. You're watching my channel. You're a hyper genius. Of course, you're picking up what I'm putting down. And it was fine. It was just, China crime. We're cops. We stop it. We're supernatural cops. They stop it. There's monkeys. Those monkeys show up later in the series. Crimson Lotus. December 18th, I read the first and only 2 issues of Frankenstein Undone. This was another COVID victim, and I think, if I remember right, the writer or something turned out to be an awful person, so that's the reason they never brought this one back. But this was about Frankenstein. So there's another Frankenstein book I haven't read yet. Oh yeah, no, that's the one where he's down below. So this was the one where it was like Frankenstein at the end of the book, the Frankenstein Mary Shelley book, and he's like... I think just trying to die or whatever, and then he meets up with another boat crew and he's able to help them out because he's like an unkillable undead freak, and he's able to help them, so they hire him on and they were gonna go do something, but the book got canceled because of COVID, and I think one of the creators turned out to be a bad person, and that was the other major reason they didn't finish it. What was there was good, but if the dude who made it was a piece of shit, yeah, who cares? Fuck him. Same day, the last of the Hellboy catch-up, The Sword of Hyperborea. This is a very strange book, because each issue is just like, here's where the Sword of Hyperborea was at this point in time, and here's where it was when this guy found it, and here's where it was when this guy found it. And it's not bad, it's just kind of confusing, and being so far removed from having read most of Hellboy, it was honestly a little hard to keep up with. I recognize most of the characters and what was going on, and it's basically the story of how the sword got from where it was to where it will be once the apocalypse happens and like BPRD wraps up and like the new world of Fishman emerges. Like the last panel shows like the next step of what will live on Earth, which is fish people, as was revealed in BPRD. And they're wielding the Sword of Hyperborea, which I think that's sweet. That's nice that the proto-civilization that led to us running the world, like a sliver of them managed to get all the way through our timeline into the timeline that will follow ours. I like that a lot. And of course, it also has that guy from the BPRD in the first issue who had the sword and like went back to caveman times. And then when he finally dies in BPRD, apparently he goes back to the ancient past and he's like, I need to figure out how to get the sword to them. And that's what kicks off the series. It's good. I think it's better if you're like in the Hellboy. I know it does not work if you don't know Hellboy stuff whatsoever. But if you're like reading all the Hellboy stuff, I think it's good to be reading it alongside all that, as opposed to waiting for a long time after. I feel really bad for anybody who like read Hellboy as it was released, because holy shit, trying to keep up with that and just keep everything straight. I mean, obviously you'd have more time to reread specific things. You'd probably have a greater appreciation for especially the earlier stuff, because you would have been gone through that several more times over probably. But yeah, I really want to do a Hellboy reread. And just 4 more to go before we can follow our compass to the grand line and talk about the One Piece. But first up, on December 20th, I read Swamp Thing Green Hell. What the fuck is this book? I've heard Jeff Lemire is a really good horror writer, and I haven't checked out, I think it's Harrow County. That's one of his big ones. Did Jeff Lemire do Essex County too, or is that somebody else? I don't think that's horror, though. That's like, doesn't matter. I know he did Harrow County, and he's done several other horror books, and I've heard him get recommended, and I'm pretty sure I've read some stuff by him, but what the fuck is Swamp Thing Green Hell? Global warming has caused the oceans to rise up to the point that there's only a few islands left. There's a small civilization of innocent, nice people who are barely getting by, a group of asshole people who come by and are like, give us all your shit early. And they're like, we'll die. And they're like, the world's ending. It doesn't fucking matter if you die. Give us your shit. And then they have to figure out how to fight back. And then at the same time, the green, the Parliament of Trees, who's barely hanging on, is talking to the gray or the black and the red. Is it the gray or the black? It's the rot? I don't know. There's the green and the red and the rot talking, and they're like, we need to wipe humanity out. Humanity is what got us this far. We can save the world if we get rid of humanity, and we can like slowly bring things back, and we never ever ever make something as complex as humans again. The red. And the red's like, sorry, my bad, I didn't think that humanity would get this out of control. We'll definitely keep it to like at most complex foxes next time, okay? And they're like, cool, that works for us. And so they transform this dude, one of the pirate guys that they kill, into a savage version of Swamp Thing. And he's just going around killing everybody. And then it goes to wherever the fuck Alec Holland Swamp Thing is, in some kind of dream realm where he's with a dream version of Abby and his kid. And he's pulled from it. And he's like, this is bullshit. You promised me I would have an eternity with them. And then he realizes that it wasn't the green who brought him back, and the green's actually pissed. It was like humanity somehow brought him back. I don't really remember how they drag him back out, but they managed to drag him out through some specific means, and he's not able to go back till he either saves them or dies. And so he decides, we'll let humanity choose. What the fuck are you talking about? Humanity chose and humanity drowned the world. It doesn't matter if there's 10 really good kids who want to like feed all the homeless people, if there's 1,000 piece of shit megalomaniacs drowning the planet. I don't... And, like, isn't it too late? There's no farmland. There's no animals. What do you eat? I don't know what the fuck the plot of the story was. The state of the world was so fucked, there's no coming back from it, and to end it on a hopeful humanity will find a way. No, they won't. They will not. This is like a 6 generations max thing. You're not, like... Maybe if Swamp Thing had like transformed into a big continent at the end or something, right? Like a hyper vegetative countryside that maybe they could have rebuilt off of. Maybe anything. But no, it's just we have to leave it up to humanity to rebuild. That doesn't make any sense in the context of the story that humanity ruined everything. I'm all about being hopeful. If the world was at the state that it is now in 2023, where we've been at this tipping point for like 30 fucking years, yeah, the tipping point is not as small as we thought it was. It's not just next year everything's fucked. We've had a decent amount of time, probably since like the 70s. When was it, the 60s? I think it was the 60s when climate activists first started being like, whoa, shit's fucked. We might have insofar as like up to 2050. I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers. I'm no scientist. But if we have till 2050 to start making changes and we wait till long after that to start, that's too late. And that's what this book is. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just going in circles with this, but it just... the message felt really mixed, and it just was trying to be a feel-good story, but it just doesn't work for me. I don't know. Maybe it'll work for other people better. Art was okay, and like some of the action was cool, and it's like about an old, that's what it was, an old bastard version of Constantine drags Swamp Thing. It would have been great if Hellboy showed up. Pulls Swamp Thing out of his like heaven, and like he seals him off, and Constantine's like, you gotta seal the deal or do it. And then Constantine ends up sacrificing himself as like a last thing for humanity. So maybe he did something to set off a change, but it's Constantine. Nothing good's gonna come from that, even if it is his last good act. It's gonna go bad somehow. Everyone gets cancer in the new world. I don't know. It was fine. I hate it though, because this is a Black Label book, and all the Black Label books are Batman or like, But that's not necessarily true, I guess. I'll get to that soon. Next up, same day, I ended up reading issues 1 through 8 of The Ghost Fleet, which is one of Daniel Warren Johnson's earlier works, and I'm pretty sure it was Donny Cates, who... Pretty sure you had a big accident recently. I hope you're recovering, man. I know that you had like a lot of balls going, and then suddenly they just stopped, and then like a couple months later, I think it was you who there was some kind of medical emergency, so I hope you're doing okay. But he wrote it, and Daniel Warren Johnson drew it, and fucking love Daniel Warren Art's... Darren Warren Johnson's art. Sorry, getting a little tongue-tied there. And yeah, it was really good. It's this thing about a truck, and these dudes are delivering it, and they're like badass action heroes, Secret Service types protecting it, and then one of them turns on the other one, and they were gay lovers, and he was supposed to kill the one he turned on, but he couldn't bring himself to kill him, so he disappeared him, and then the disappeared guy's back 10 years later. And it turns out what they're transporting in the trucks is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, one at a time. Yep. And then like devils are transporting them. So like, holy shit, it's like demons trying to fuck us over. And then at the end of the day, he opens it and he gets possessed by the spirit of death or whatever, by the essence of death. So he, like the main guy is now half death, and he's fighting this demon, and he kills him, and then death leaves his body, and they're like, cool, we saved the day. Oh, no, we didn't. Those demons were actually, like, sure, they're using Earth for their own means, but they didn't want Earth destroyed, so they were containing the Horsemen, and now that we've released them, we've destroyed the world. And the epilogue is like a 4-page, like, so then this guy went off, and he led the Machine Rebellion and became more machine than man, and this guy went off and fought the Death's innate cultists, and then he ended up changing their ways, and, like, just insane, like, one of those silly, at the end of a high school movie, like, Billy would go on to open this company, but, like, the apocalypse. And then they hint at, like, what honestly looks like a way more interesting series. I don't know if the Ghost Fleet will ever come back. I probably would read a volume 2, though, especially if it was just about those guys going on some crazy post-apocalyptic adventures. Anything by Daniel Warren Johnson's worth reading. I'm a little upset he's writing Transformers. So far, I dislike Transformers so much, it's the only thing to keep me from trying out his Transformers, but I'm sure I will down the road, because Daniel Warren Johnson, goddamn talented man. Next up, same day, December 20th, I read Rogues. I think this is Joshua Williamson, a writer I don't particularly like very much, but I thought Rogues was really good. It's just about old man Captain Cold giving up crime, and he's working at a dead-end like factory job, and they give him like a promotion, and then as he's leaving, he hears them like, why are you giving that criminal a promotion? Oh, he's a criminal, he can't get away with anything, and like with how much money he's like getting taken out of each paycheck, it's not like he'll ever be able to get ahead in life, and he wants to make a good impression, so he'll basically do whatever I say anyway. Stupid moron. And then they make fun of him, like, isn't that Mr. Freeze? No, Mr. Freeze was a real villain. That was Captain Cold. What a dork. And he snaps and is like, 10 years ago, I heard about how there's a pile of gold under Gorilla City, and to prove that we're real men, we're going to go get it. So he gets all the rogues back together in Bronze Tiger for some reason, and they just go on a big heist to Gorilla City, and it's just about one man who... it's not that Snart isn't Snart being Captain Cold, Leonard Snart. It's not that he's stupid, but he sure is a prideful fuck. And it all goes poorly for him. And it's a pretty good story for that. I'd recommend it. It's just a fun little heist. And then there's like gangster gorillas. It's good. It's a fun time. Anytime there's a gorilla in a comic book, it's good. That's what like the 1960s would tell us at least. Finally, before we get into One Piece. So 29th, I read the last chapter of One Piece. And December 29th, I read Batman Santa Claus Silent Night. I don't know what it is about Christmas. I'm not a Christian. I very strongly am against a lot of that kind of stuff. But I was, grew up with Christmas, and so I celebrate Christmas in like a non-religious kind of way. So I like a lot of the imagery. I literally stopped reading at one point. Just, I couldn't handle it anymore. Where Batman's like, hey, Chris. And they're like, Santa Claus? And Batman fucking says, yes, when I was traveling around the world, I met him. He trained me for a few months. It broke my brain. Fucking Santa Claus trained Batman for a few months. That makes me so happy. And every time Santa Claus meets someone, he's like, hey, Dick Grayson of 1001, whatever you live lane, you asked for this. And he's like, oh my God, you read my letter? And he's like, I read every letter the kid sent me. And I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ, that's so wholesome. This is a story about how Santa Claus and Krampus are both like Nordic spirits. So there's kind of a lot of Thor stuff, actually. I mean, it's DC, so it's no Thor stuff, but it's like, it's all the same. It's Norse, so it's the same shit. And they're talking about like where the different realms they come from, and eventually Santa and Krampus were both good-mannered, good-natured things, and they both got trapped on Earth after one of the wild hunts. They would go on the wild hunts every time that the gods came through here or whatever, through Earth, Midgard, whatever. And one year they got left behind. And so from that point on, Krampus decided to, scare the children into being good, and Santa would reward the children for being good. And Krampus did that because he's like the type of like spirit he is, like thrived on that negativity. So he literally needed to be nasty, but they found a way to make it positive because Krampus isn't a bad guy. He just looks like that. One year, though, he was like, I'm going to eat the kids. And Santa's like, no, you're not. And he's like, I'm going to eat them. And then he goes and he eats them. And he's like, took their shoes off or something. And Santa's like, where's the kids? And Krampus is like, I ate them. Haha. And Santa's like, fuck no. And he banishes them to this place where they're banishing all these evil spirits. And then like the boys run out from the bushes. And they're like, did we trick him? Krampus? And Santa's like, oh my God, Krampus was just playing a game on me. Thousands of years pass, or hundreds, or whatever the fuck. And it's modern day. And Krampus has found a way to get out. And he's been possessed by, I don't remember what it was. But he was just possessed by negative spirits, essentially. And so he's finally acting negatively. And then it's just about Santa, Batman, and a whole bunch of random Justice Leaguers. I'm talking like the Far Sector Green Lantern. I'm talking like Hawk Girl. I'm talking Zatanna. I'm talking Martian Man. Not Martian Manhunter. Miss Martian, sorry. A bunch of random fucking characters show up. And it's awesome. Green Arrow, Black Canary. That's awesome. They do cool stuff together. And then ultimately they bring Krampus down by like... Damien is the Robin, and they capture Damien, and Damien goes through the motions of like, I just want to be a good boy, please bring me back to my dad, I've learned my lesson. And so Krampus is able to like break through the ghost control and bring him back to Santa to reward him for being a good boy, blah blah blah. And they manage to save him, and Santa's like, sorry about that, Krampus. And Krampus is like, I don't even remember what happened, like, where have I been? And he's like, don't worry, well, you're back where you're supposed to be, and I'm so sorry for that mistake. And they're gonna go figure things out, hopefully. And it was really good. But issue 4, throughout the series, anytime there's a flashback, a different artist took over. That's fine. That makes sense. And they're good artists, so it's fine. And like that's nice, because it's modern day, it looks like this. Oh, now we're in a flashback, it looks very different. I have an immediate visual, this is not now. That's good. Issue 4, I don't know what happened. The main artist couldn't finish it. He got bogged down. He was busy with other stuff. I'm not sure. But they got a different artist. And it's not just that it was a different artist, because the art's not necessarily even bad. It just tonally doesn't match. Like, the whole time, Batman's like... He's more like Bendis's Batman from Batman Universe. Like the playful Batman who's constantly cracking small jokes. Not big. It's just little, Batman-y jokes. And then in the last issue, he's still doing that because it's written by the same guy. But now he's completely shrouded in darkness as he's like, go have a fun time, son. And it's like, what are you doing? And Santa Claus goes from being drawn to like, from this badass, like Grant Morrison's Claus to like fat dumpy Claus, like normal Santa Claus. And it just doesn't fit. And it's just a shame because there's such a good 2 issues before. The 3rd issue is okay, but starts having those art issues. And then the 4th issue is just completely a different dude doing it. A couple different dudes. I don't know. There's a few panels in particular that just did not work for me. But overall, I think it's really good. And it's one of those cases where if they can, I would really appreciate if they could get the main artist to like finish the 4th issue and release it as a trade paperback. Because this would be it's a little silly, but like it could be a 10 out of 10 comic for me, honestly. And again, the 4th dude's art isn't bad necessarily. It just does not fit the story and is such a drastic change from earlier that like that whiplash is what fucks it up so bad, I think. Yeah, I think that's about all I got to say about those. So thanks for... Oh, that's right. Yayo. You got to get the One Piece? The other day I was in a fast food lane just waiting for my food, and I noticed the person in front of me had a Tony Chopper and a Zorro bumper sticker. And, we were in line, so both our windows were down, and I just shouted, "The Will of the D!" And they just looked at me kind of confused, and then they, like, hurried off. So I don't think the One Piece, like, fan community is really that strong of a community, I gotta say. But really, One Piece, it's excellent. I don't know, man. It's so long. It's so good, but it's so long. And, like, is it worth it? I don't know. How much time do you have? Are you in high school? 100% worth it. Do you have a super demanding job and, like, a wife and kids? Might not be worth it. My main problem with One Piece is how on the nose everything is. I agree with pretty much all of the lessons and major lessons. I think I just said that. All of, like, the themes and lessons in the story. Ultimately, One Piece is about pirates versus marines, chaos versus order, and how there's good and bad in both. You're never, ever, all order's not good, all chaos isn't good. You want a balance of both. And fighting for your freedom is essential against fascism. Those are all good lessons. There's good, like, forgive enemies, realize where people are coming from, realize that people can change, realize people should change. It's all great, but it's all just so on the nose. And it's all just so very direct. And maybe it sticks out so much because of how I shotgunned it. Maybe One Piece is better read, like, one arc a month or something. So you spread it over a year or two, and you just read, like, boom, all of, East Blue. And then you read all of Alabasta. And then you read all of whatever's next after that. I don't have the list in front of me, but you know what I'm saying? I think the problems really stood out for me just because I shotgunned it all in 4 months. One Piece is excellent. What is there to say? Monkey D. Luffy is going to be the king of the pirates? I will say, I ended up watching the live-action One Piece show on Netflix, and that's what kind of inspired me to finally come back and just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to read it. So that became my last big project of the year. Started with Saga, ended with One Piece. Two big, one much bigger comic series, off my backlog, into my brain. That's good. I need to shove more things in there after all. So that led me to go check out, like, some of the movies. I haven't watched them yet. I plan on watching a couple of those. I played through a couple of the games. That's why I'm doing this one first instead of the video games, so that I can just have, boom, I read all of One Piece. That's why I read this. Or that's why I played through these. And I think that's all I want to do for One Piece. I got, like, 2 more games I want to beat, and I want to check out those movies. And I kind of want to check out some of, like, the PS1 One Piece games. There's, like, a Japanese only one that looks kind of fun called, like, I think Gigantbat. No, that was on the DS. I don't remember what it's called. It's the first PlayStation 1, like, fighter One Piece game, and it looks kind of cute. I don't think it'll be very good, but I think it'll be fun to poke around in. I don't know, what is there to say about One Piece, man? Like, it's good. The art's really good. It's impressive how much stuff brought up early on doesn't seem to matter. And not in a bad way, where it's just like, oh yeah, here's like a little nonsense, little thing. Oh, that character actually came back 500 chapters later and is like a big deal. That's cool. I like the early stuff all pretty well. It kind of sucks once they bring in, like, hockey and, like, when they awaken the devil fruit. You can kind of tell early on that wasn't a consideration at all, because then it just suddenly comes in and, like, is a big deal, and they first introduce it as mantra, and then later on are like, well, hockey, some people, they call it different things in different places, so, it's fine. But, I mean, that's just kind of a natural problem that comes with shonen, and you constantly have to up the stakes. How do you do that? And One Piece, honestly, doesn't really have that. They just fight another dude, and they're good enough, or aren't. Whereas, like, in Dragon Ball Z, the other shonen I'm most familiar with, there's a very definite, I'm this strong, I got beat, now I'm this strong, and I won, now I lost, now I'm this strong, and, like, there's a very easy to follow, like, visual graph. Whereas One Piece, it's like, did they get stronger? I mean, naturally you would, as you, like, fight more people, and then they fight another stronger guy, and they manage to beat him, so I guess they did get stronger. So, I mean, I'm not even saying that's, like, a good or bad thing. I'm just noting, to me, in other shonen, there's, like, a very obvious, like, you can tell they leveled up like a JRPG, and in One Piece, that's less so. They just naturally kind of get stronger. And there's only, like, one big training scene, and it's, like, a time skip, so you don't even see any of it, really. You get some flashbacks and stuff, but I don't know. Oh, that's another cool thing. The cover stories, they tell, like, it's like Western style backups, but as, like, the cover. So they'll be, like, 20 chapters, tell, like, a 20 chapter story of, like, I don't know, what's his name? Kobe and Helmeppo training under Garp, and, like, how that started. So then when Kobe finally shows up as, like, a buff grown man, you're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that. Or, like, in the beginning, Buggy loses all of his like body parts and is on his own, and it shows like the journey of him as just 2 hands, 2 feet, and a head journeying back to get his crew back together, and that's pretty cool. One Piece is great. It's really, really good. I think it's a little too long. I feel like, honestly, I think it's a problem with mangakas. Not them necessarily, but the industry is like Oda never had a chance to plot out One Piece. Like, I have no idea. I haven't looked into this, so I don't know if he's talked about this at all, but just, how could he have? 97, he starts writing, he's like, I want to draw a pirate manga. He probably has lots of ideas. Most creatives have lots and lots of ideas, and it's like, oh, but yeah, I'll get to this in like chapter 5,000, you know. Sure, he'll have a little bit of that, but like, man, if One Piece had gotten to be planned out from the get-go, and he could like actually have everything lead into everything else, it does pretty well. But it still just has the trappings of it's a weekly manga, and like some things are longer than they might need to be because maybe he's like, I don't know what's coming next, so I got to stretch this part out a little bit, or maybe he's just enjoying drawing this part so much so he like made some parts longer than others. And I would say some things got more attention than they needed, and I'd say some things didn't get enough attention. So I just wonder what One Piece would have looked like in a world where he could have actually plotted it all out. No, I wouldn't like that because then people get turned into dicks. But I was going to say they just announced a new One Piece series. And if that turns into kind of that, where it's like, this is what One Piece should have always been. Like, this is One Piece. I'd be interested to see that, but I just feel like the fan community or whatever would just turn into assholes. Because just look at like Full Metal Alchemist and how psychopathic some people are about Brotherhood versus the original. I think both are good series. And like obviously one is more inspired by the manga, but that doesn't mean the other one's bad. And I'm sure some people would just get that way. But then again, to me, I think the One Piece anime as is isn't very good because it's like made for a younger audience and there's lots and lots and lots and lots of yelling. So it's like hard for me to get into that anyway. So I don't even really know what I'm talking about. I'm concerned about things I'm not concerned about. Typical. But yeah, I don't know. One Piece is good. I recommend it if you have the time. If you don't, try to read it in chunks. It's fun. I can't imagine anyone disliking Monkey D. Luffy. Or, and then like, just some random quick thoughts. Like, why in the live action show did they make, I'm going to call him Zoro. Why did they make him like that? Why is he just a prick? He's not a prick. He's like a dumb fuck. He's only a prick to Sanji, really. And the rest of the people, he's aloof at worst. Maybe a little I'm better than you-ish, but not like, his main personality is that he's kind of like he's like a himbo. How come there's so many poisons? They use poison a lot in One Piece. Is that like holdover from bringing this back from earlier in the video, Hiroshima and stuff, like the nuclear fallout? Like is there some kind of cultural thing I'm unaware of with like poisons being a big deal? Because like poison comes up a lot. Don Krieg, Kaiser Clown. There's several other people where poisons are a big deal. Ryuju, the sister of Sanji, she can deal with poisons. Lots of poison. There's some kind of poison in the Wano arc. I don't know. It just feels like I'm missing something with how much poison is brought up and like seems to be an issue. Oh, another random thought. Panda Man, he's the best. If you aren't reading One Piece and always on the lookout for Panda Man, you're reading it wrong, I believe. I don't even know when he started showing up. Was that from the get-go? I like cute little Easter eggs like that. I think that'll wrap up my random One Piece thoughts for now. I'm trying to keep up on it weekly. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll finish this arc, and then when he starts a new arc, I'll like take a break and then just read him arc to arc. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. Those are all the comics that I read. Be sure to be on the lookout for movies and games following this. And the movies one I'll probably throw on TV. I didn't watch a lot of TV this year, so... yeah, I think that'll do for the comics of 2023 that I read. What are comics that you read this year, if you read any? And what are some that you're looking forward to reading this year? What do you think about the ones I listed here? Are you a fan or not a fan of any of these? Was I wrong or was I really right about any of them in your opinion? Curious to know. So, yeah, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you in 2024. This is JG Wam. Have a great year, everybody.